This is Dan Harrelson alongside Nick Taylor, and today we're talking to former fullback and team captain of the Vanderbilt Commodores, Lamont Turner. How are you doing today, Lamont?
Hey, I'm all right. Yourself, Dan and Nick?
Pretty well.
Oh, we're doing great this morning. Good to have you on.
Well, a few days ago, we learned that Robbie Caldwell dropped the interim tag, and Vanderbilt has him as the permanent head coach. And Lamont actually went through a coaching transition in Nashville with the Vanderbilt Commodores, going from the 1996 season, which was his freshman year, into the 97 season with Woody Woodenhofer. Talk about that, Lamont, about transitioning into a coaching change, and how do you think the players will adapt to that, going to new full permanent head coach Robbie Caldwell?
Yeah, at Vanderbilt there, we're not known for our stability as far as our coaching staff there. And like you said, back in 1996, our team received some news that Dyer would no longer be our coach. And we went and we got Coach Woody Woodenhofer as our coach. And anytime you go through that transition, it's always a bunch of questions as far as why is the coach leaving, how are we going to adjust and adapt to the new coaching staff, new philosophies, new schemes, where am I going to fit in? And for a player standpoint, if you're not a solidified starter, a lot of times that's a transitional period for you to kind of actually take advantage of an opportunity or potentially disengage in that program there. So that's why you haven't seen a lot of stability there, like at a rich traditional type program like at Alabama. Those guys are fortunately at Alabama to have that focus there, but at Vanderbilt, this is going to be an interesting time to where they have to reestablish their foundation as far as the football program. Just when they were starting to build some momentum and focus, all of a sudden that focus was interrupted. So it's going to be a challenge for Coach Caldwell to come in there and actually reestablish that focus and take the program in the direction to where Bobby was taking it back in 2008. But overall, from what I've heard from the former players or the current players now who are playing there, there's a lot of new energy there. And so there's a lot of positive momentum because I think Coach Johnson, he kind of, the fire had gone down. And so hopefully it'll be a positive change for the better.
Well, let's transition from this year's football talk and the head coaching talk into what you're doing lately, and I'll let Nick discuss that with you.
All right. Yeah, Lamont, obviously you were a former player at Vanderbilt, and talk about your new book and how people can get it and some of the issues that's addressed in the book. I know being a African-American football player and then playing at an institution like Vanderbilt obviously shaped a lot of your opinions and process and the experiences that you went through at Vandy. Talk a little bit about that and what went into the decision and the process of you writing the book.
Absolutely. Again, the name of the book is called Winning Beyond the Scoreboard. Underdog, the final score is what counts. And to answer your question, it's available online at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. But as far as how I actually came into writing the book, I was at a point in my time and career here in Birmingham, Alabama, as a medical device sales rep, where I pretty much got removed from my number one hospital. And so I felt so bad, I felt like an underdog. And I thought to myself, when I walked into my number one account, I said, where have I felt this feeling before? And it actually took me back to a place where SEC football fans, they know all too well that Vanderbilt football players are the underdogs of the SEC. And so what I did throughout that period of just thinking about some of the purpose and the meaning of my underdog challenge at the time, I look back at my Vanderbilt football underdog challenges and ask myself, how did I overcome and actually redefine what winning and losing was for me to ultimately get my underdog victory as a Vanderbilt football underdog. So I did that and evaluated it, extracted the lessons learned from those experiences, and applied it to my medical device underdog challenge. And that's what helped me get my medical device underdog victory. And what I thought was, as I was accumulating all this lessons learned and packaged it up into a book, I thought that there's other underdogs out there that could actually benefit from the same underdog overcoming mentality transition that I went through. So because what I found is that underdog mentality is an underdog mentality, whether it's on the football fields of the SEC or whether it's in your love life or in corporate America or whatever. And so that's why I thought it might be together to kind of help them transition and overcome their underdog mentality.
Absolutely. Well, as someone who's read part of the book, I think it's a great book. Talk about what the acronym underdog stands for and how that is a key component of your book real quick. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was actually talking with one of my mentors at the time throughout my medical device underdog challenge, my mentors actually, he actually challenged me and said, it's a spiritual warfare that you're going through. And I really took that to heart. And I was sitting in a church service one day, and I thought about an acronym, which was underestimated nobodies delivering extraordinary results despite opposing God. And I know that's quite long, but if you focus on that last portion, which is the small g, which stands for God, it's the opposition that you're facing as you're going through your underdog struggle. What it took me on a search as far as what was God, what's the definition of a God. And so when I looked it up in the definition, or in the dictionary, of Webster's dictionary, it defined God as someone who controls a particular aspect of reality. And so when I thought about that, I thought about, where my opposition came from as an underdog at Vanderbilt, and a lot of times there was those critics, the media, the fans, and actually I was even one of my own worst critics as an underdog, which is that underdog mentality. So it's anyone that's opposing where you're trying to go. And what that actual search took me on, it took me on a self-reflective search of a discovery of a God, or greater God within me. And it's not necessarily the God that you serve religiously or spiritually, but again, if you deal with that definition to where someone who controls a reality, anyone can be a God. And I think in college football down here in the SEC, I think that college football fans, they allow the college football school board to control their reality.
Well,
and so with that being said, winning beyond the scoreboard is basically a focus on taking the actual events on the field and taking it beyond the scoreboard and showing how different readers are underdogs, not only potentially on the football field, but also in life. How people are actually, they have opposition in their lives, different challenges. And it kind of takes the book, as you said you read, takes them on a self-reflective look by asking those questions. Who's actually controlling your reality in your life? And at the end of the day, I think that within us, we all have the ability to control our reality, which is a discovery of the God within you.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great read. We want to have you back on to discuss the book more in detail down the road. And we'll also put the link to your book trailer up on there as well once we get the interview posted.
Hey, real fast, Lamont, who do you like in the 2010 SEC Championship game and the 2010 BCS National Championship game in Glendale?
Hey, man, that's an obvious question, being an Alabamian down here and catching hold to the Tide fever down here. So I would have to say Alabama all the way on that. I mean, it's kind of hard to take, or really to vote against them, but really, I really do think that they have a strong program coming back, and Saban has a good foundation down there. It's going to be hard to beat them. So in order to get my vote, you have to knock out the champ, and so no one's done that yet. So we'll see if it does happen. So Alabama all the way.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, thanks for spending some time with us this morning, and everybody be sure to check out his book at Barnes & Noble.
Absolutely. We want to say off the record here